Hello, friends. Tara Bachland here, author of You-niversal Self-care, Improved Health Through Self-Understanding, and the creator of the Weight-Free Wellness podcast. And today's episode, I am welcoming on my favorite guest, John Bachland, my hubby. And if it seems like, hey, why are you inviting your husband on? It's just you want to talk and, hang out the two of you. Well, yeah, that's fun too. But relationships are a huge part of our health, and more, I think, than we realize until something goes downhill. So John and I have been together and married for 16 years and have learned a few things along the way that we're very happy to share with you. So here's my hubby. Say hi.
Hello. Is the screen splitting, or are we both on the screen the whole time?
No, it switches back and forth.
Okay, good.
So if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching the video, you'll see our faces. It's not split screen. Whoever's talking, you'll see their face. So today I did give you a little bit heads up this time. I don't always give you a full rundown of what we're going to be discussing. We are in the holiday season around Thanksgiving. And so of course, we're seeing everybody on Facebook and all that about gratitude and thanks. And of course, that's the meaning of Thanksgiving. But I had something come to mind. I think we've all been at the dinner table and some relative says, okay, we're going to go around the table and we're going to say what we're grateful for. And it's kind of like you're put on the spot, right? You can say it, but it doesn't always feel the most genuine. And so I wanted to talk today about what actually happened a couple nights ago. It was my birthday, and we kind of had just an impromptu mutual appreciation society session together. And it's really, it happened so organically and genuinely. And it's really just, to me, really beautiful when that real, deep, sincere gratitude comes out. And I don't know if that was something that you planned at all. You were playing with your cameras and stuff, and it's like trying to talk to.
I didn't know you can see that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Oh, but the audience can't see it. Okay.
No, the audience can't see that. And so it's like I'm trying to talk to you. Every woman has had this problem with a guy. I'm trying to talk to you and you're doing something else, and it's hard. It's distracting. I can't keep.
I thought you were talking to the audience.
Oh, well, I am, but we're pretty connected. So I'm like, okay, can I ask him a question at any point here?
I just wanted to, I have two cameras, I have two screens. I just wanted to see which one works better with the lighting or looks better. Maybe which side on me looks better. So
do we need to start over and we can play off camera with that?
No, this is perfect. I think everybody should hear this.
So John, which angle do you like better? Do you like the straight on angle or from the side?
Frontal is fine. Yes.
Thanks for saying what I was actually thinking and trying to avoid saying.
Hey, that's clean. I did not swear.
That's right. Thanks for following the rules.
Yes, I know I'm looking a little mysterious. It didn't look so good in the evening with the lights on in my office, so I just turned them off and I'm going by the light of the screen.
Well, it looks like your head is floating because there's a black background and you're wearing the black shirt. So.
Well, you can see stuff in the background too, so
a little bit.
I don't really look like I'm floating, but.
So we kind of got an early start to the Thanksgiving tradition of showing gratitude and appreciation. But we've had this happen many times in our relationship, and where we just kind of start doing this mutual appreciation. Don't do it in front of anyone else because they might puke, at the gushiness of it all. Right. But I think is a really healthy and necessary thing. Like, even if I can imagine times where there are times where it's more challenging to tap into the gratitude of life, when there are challenges and stuff. And we kind of go into a mode where we start reminiscing. I think that's where it started. So it was my birthday night. There was a lot of things that happened in that day, and I wanted to go out that evening, but I just decided, try a couple new bottles of wine from the organic wine shop, brought him home. You made a fire.
I flicked the switch. Yeah.
Right. And we sat by the fire and talked. And I don't know if it was premeditated by you at all, but we started reminiscing. You started reminiscing and kind of went back to when we first met and the things that you saw in me and liked and appreciated about me. And that's really, to me, I think that's a fast track way into getting into that gratitude mode, because those are, the falling in love times, and it's easy to get back into that. So was that premeditated, or you just Mr. John Suave and just?
Well, I kind of remember a little prompting. I remember you saying something about, let's talk about our, what do you appreciate about our past and our relationship? And that I went all the way back to the beginning because I appreciate our entire relationship and the entire time we've been together, even through the tough times.
So I started it, you're saying?
I don't know, maybe, when you've been together for a while, 16 years now, you kind of, sometimes you hear the other person's voice in your head and you're trying to figure out, is that their thoughts, or is it something they've said in the past, or am I just, kind of fantasizing / hallucinating something that you might say, or you might want.
Well, you read my cues if if you were reading mine, and apparently I read yours too.
Relationships are mysterious.
There is a mysterious component to them. But what's neat is, like, even if it, in as relationship ages, it matures too. It's not the same as being in that absolutely head over heels in love when you first meet a person. I mean, I'm absolutely head over heels in love with you. It's a different feeling than when you first meet. And so it's, I think, really healthy and helpful to go back to, what did you first notice in me, and what, this is what I really appreciated about you. And it's okay to fish for compliments.
Exactly. I'm actually exploring my Facebook feed. I can't remember what it was, but I want to read something that a friend of ours said on Facebook. If you remember what Dennis said.
Oh, that's right.
And I'm just kind of going back, and it's actually quite a ways back.
Yeah, our anniversary was a couple weeks ago. Then my birthday comes like a week later. And so, yeah, I had posted on Facebook a happy anniversary to you, and what that means, what you mean to me. And there's a lot. It's not just, the 16 years together and all the things that we've experienced and had, but for me, what is most valuable about our relationship is actually, I'm really happy about who I've become in our relationship. And that's essentially what I shared on that Facebook post. And several friends responded with actual words, not just liking. And one of them was Dennis, who essentially said, usually when I see these posts like this, I just don't believe them and just chalk it up to, that must not be true, or that can't happen to me. And he said we had met him just once, I think. There's a special event. He was coming into town and was actually doing a tour across the United States on a Ducati Panigale. And so we had dinner with him and some other Ducati group friends, groupies.
Right. And the Ducati Panigale is a sport bike, and he toured the entire US on a sport bike, which is really something that you got to be hardcore to do that.
Right.
It can be uncomfortable after a while.
So we had only met that one time. We picked him up because, of course, he was riding his motorcycle and wasn't going to drive it to dinner. And we picked him up. We all had dinner together. So we only met for a period of, several hours. And so his response was really interesting on Facebook, because I'd forgotten about most of that, because we've seen him so much on Facebook also. You feel like you know a person a little bit more. And he said, I usually don't believe posts when I read them like this. But he said, I met this couple, for a matter of a couple hours, and he thought that had just started dating.
Hey, he thought we were dating for a few months. But he was so impressed by how we treated each other and the fun we were having. He couldn't believe that we had been married for, at that point, maybe 12, 13 years.
Right. Yeah. At that point it was. And I think it has a lot to do with doing these kinds of things where you reminisce about those, falling in love head over heels times. And I think it also helps to encourage from one another to see the appreciation in your current situation.
Right. Well, it was nice to hear from him. It's always nice to get that validation. I remember when we were in Mexico a few years back, and we were on a boat tour out. You remember we went out to that island, and they were doing kind of like an Aztec ritual up on this big makeshift kind of stage pyramid kind of thing. And on the boat, we're just talking, and you speak Spanish fluently. And so people were, kind of intrigued and asking you where you're from and this and that. And then everybody was asking you how long me and you have been married, because we're having so much fun. And the newlyweds, and I forget how you say it in Spanish, but they were always saying that. And you were like, yeah, they think we're newlyweds. And I'm like, well, tell them we've been together for 10 years, So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, I remember going out there that one of the ladies at the hotel, told her that we were going there, and she was like, "Ay, qué romántico, qué romántico," and that's kind of been one of our things since.
And that
how romantic,
right?
Yeah. So to me, that is definitely going to be one of my most memorable birthdays. It wasn't about the fancier restaurant or the gift. All of those are fun too. I'm not saying I would appreciate those in the future, but definitely, you can't put that on your list, really. I want to have an evening by the fire, sipping wine and reminiscing. And the whole point of this to me is that to me was real genuine gratitude. Different than sitting at the Thanksgiving table and everybody being prompted, what are you grateful for? Now, I'm not downing that. I'm not saying that that's not worth doing, but it's interesting how when you have these impromptu moments, you just kind of, what are you looking at? your eyes are looking.
It doesn't matter. Nobody else can see when I'm not talking, right?
I know, but it's distracting.
I've got a lot of windows open on my computer, and so I have the input volume for the microphone, and I have, the hilarious thing is, this is how you always are with me, and this is how I always am with you. And unless people are around us, they won't know that. That's why Dennis said what he said on Facebook. He said, normally I would read what are you looking at now? You looked behind you.
Yeah. I'm hearing your voice through the door.
Oh,
I'm just hoping that it doesn't echo on the podcast.
No, it should be fine. We'll listen afterwards. We might have to scrap the whole thing, but that's okay. At least we had fun. But this is how we are together all the time. Very rarely do we get upset at anything either one of us is doing. We just kind of laugh about it and go, what is going on over there?
Well, I get these images in my mind. Well, I see you doing that. And then I think he's looking off to the side like a dog looks without turning his head. And so I'm
afraid that they might get in trouble.
Right. So I'm wondering what's going on over there.
Well, I got this is a new microphone that I'm trying, and so I'm watching the input volume. So when I look over there, I'm looking at the input volume, and then I've got Facebook up here. So when I look up, it looks like I'm looking at the camera a little bit more, but I'm actually looking at Facebook trying to find that post from Dennis. And over here on the right, I have my text thread. So if anybody's shooting me a text while I'm talking to you and we're doing the podcast, I can see that too.
If you were any other guest, I would make you close those windows.
It's better. It's next time I'll do it on the smaller screen because then my eyes won't dart around so much. But I'm on the big screen, so it's like, whoa. And
So
if they're
yes,
listening,
this
I'm letting my eyes slowly wander to the left and slowly wander to the right.
so this is, I'd say, like you were mentioning, a major component to our relationship where this could be very frustrating to someone. I have tried over the years to reprogram myself to find the humor, or it doesn't help to make it makes the situation worse when you just get crabby and say stop that, and
Yeah.
so it doesn't really help. You can chime in if you want.
No, it's just more distracting than anything.
What's distracting?
If somebody's just barking orders at someone else.
Yeah. So yeah, I have really worked on increasing that patience in myself.
I'm closing the windows.
It makes it sound like I need to have a lot of patience being with you.
Well, I might agree with that. Now now I have to turn the light up a little bit on my screen so that you can see me better, because when I closed the windows, they had white light.
Yeah.
There we go. And then I put the window higher on the screen so that when I look at your face when I'm talking to you, it looks like I'm looking at the camera.
All right.
See?
So that's awesome. Let's get back on topic.
We are on topic. This is kind of a mutual appreciation podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually interacting normally like we do, and it's fun to me.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, honestly, and to most guys, I believe everything is kind of a joke. I mean, I'm serious about stuff that I need to get done, and making money and being out in the world doing things. But it's all, I could joke about everything, every single thing, even stuff that happens to me. If I'm having a terrible day, the number one thing I do is start cracking jokes, just to lighten the mood and make myself laugh. And the reason I can do that, the reason I don't walk around as a crabby dude, even when I'm having some issues, is because I'm married to you and I'm happy. And that's part of the sitting down and reminiscing and talking about 16 years together. I mean, I think we've been together for 16 years. I think I probably talked about 10 or 12 of those years in our reminiscing session. We must have been sitting there for 3 hours, maybe 3.5 hours. I don't remember, but
I don't remember either.
it was a long time. And
Mm.
we went through, I don't know, maybe a bottle of wine, maybe a little bit more. I don't remember.
Neither do I,
The
incidentally.
more you drink, the less you remember. So that's family friendly, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Some of this light is really reflecting off my face. Ooh.
We'll powder your nose next time before we
Nice.
start.
Need some anti-glare.
Yeah, so that is kind of the beauty of being impromptu. I mean, the whole situation, like earlier that day, I had asked, let's go out in the evening and have some time. Sometimes it helps going out just to sit across the table from one another so that there aren't other distractions. And I thought that was what I wanted that evening. Well, it had been a long day. I was out and about a lot. And so I just decided, let's stay home. And fortunately, you kind of tuned into that and turned off everything else, turned on the fire. And I think that impromptu nature also really helps, going with the flow, in the sense that, you're like, okay, we're going to hang out at home. And that lighthearted nature, I know, really has helped me over the years, because that's not how I was. I think we're all born that way, being lighthearted and wanting to have fun. It gets programmed out of us, and going to school and having to do tests and going to work and getting this done and that done. And so I think that is a really healthy aspect, which actually does tie into what I was talking about, which is, the staged, what are you grateful for? and the impromptu. And there are different ways to get into gratitude, whether it's reminiscing or just prompting your mind, like what would really, I mean, this may seem like a strange way to get into it, but like, what would I be really devastated by if I lost this in my life? And that's kind of like a, a backwards way into gratitude. It's not that you want to bring up sad things all the time, but if you're having a hard time tapping into gratitude, I think that can whip you into shape a little bit.
Right. Yes. I'm just trying to be the average regular guy. I agree with you, honey.
Are you looking for that post still?
No. I was just remembering the love chemicals and the different things, the dopamine and serotonin and how do they say it? Epinephrine. Yeah. And the way that you cultivate this in your relationship. And we like John Gray, and we like to listen to a lot of his stuff. And he talks about all that, the oxytocin and the vasopressin and that kind of stuff. And so it's, spending time and talking about, I'm just giving the guys some cues here. If there's any guys listening to your podcast, that reminiscing is a powerful thing. It's fun for me because we've had so many good times, and I like the feelings I get when I reminisce about the good times too. It's not just to, give you good feelings, but it's also for me.
Well, it's easy to return the favor then too. If you're saying things that you love and have appreciated about me, it's easy to turn that around. So it could start out with one person fishing for compliments, and it ends up being a win-win situation.
Yeah, and if you said something to me or I said something to you about, something we wanted or I guess I might think at some point you might be fishing for a compliment, but I think of you as more of a logical person, and you actually want to know. You actually want my opinion. So if you say, does this outfit look good on me? You want to know. And I don't ever say yes or no. I just say, I'll talk about the attributes of the outfit. I'll talk about your attributes, and then I'll talk about where you're going. So when you say fishing for a compliment, I think of a lady going, "Oh, do you like my hair today?" And that's just, you can't say anything else other than yes. You're stuck. The fish is on the hook. You got to reel it in. You're stuck having to give that compliment.
Yeah.
And you never do that.
No, you're right. I do tend to be more logical in that sense. I'll ask you specifically, but there can be times like where there's definitely an emotional component, and it's different though. So it's different. So if I ask you, what do you think of my hair? Or what do you think of this outfit? Yes, I'm asking for direct feedback, and I am taking a deep breath to prepare myself for whatever the answer is going to be. But there are times where I know I have a different technique, and maybe this is where the podcast is going. And the technique is, what is it that you first saw in me? Or maybe a situation reminds me of how we first met, or that all-nighter that we spent at your school. And, we spent talking all night. And that's all we did all night. I mean, we kissed and made out a bit, but it was really just kind of old-fashioned sweet in that way, or old-fashioned according to maybe our generations. That would have been really fast for your parents' generation.
Absolutely. Totally old-fashioned for our era and the way that people do the little calls, and text and Tinder and that kind of stuff. I'm trying to keep it clean. I'm trying to keep it family oriented here.
Yeah, so I'll do fishing like that. Like, do you remember that, or, what, I know the answer, but I'll ask you again, like, what did you first see in me? And because we both agreed that when we first saw each other, we weren't looking to date each other or find someone necessarily. We kind of grew on each other in a way. And there were qualities that stood out to each of us. And so to kind of repeat that actually helps at this stage in our relationship, where what you formerly loved about the person can turn out to be annoying. I think that reminiscing really helps to refresh that, oh yeah, I loved that and still do love that about that person.
Yeah, and I wouldn't call that love. I would call that excitement. So people are excited by different things at different points in their life, depending on their willingness to either take risk.
Did you change something in your volume because you're buzzing?
No. Am I buzzing now?
Yeah, you're buzzing now.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't touch anything.
Unplug your mic and let's test that.
All right. Can you hear me still?
Yep, that's much better.
That'll be my my computer mic now. I'll just pull that in a little bit.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay.
So you're saying you wouldn't call that love, or wouldn't call what love?
Well, when you said what we first loved in each other, obviously, there's infatuation or lust or excitement, and people are at different levels of those things in the beginning of a relationship. The things, it's new, it's fresh. You can take somebody by surprise constantly in the beginning of a relationship. Now it's very difficult for me to surprise you, and you probably feel that not much surprises you from me anymore, because things could change on a daily basis depending on what I'm doing or what I want to do. And you very rarely surprise me. You have surprised me with a haircut, and you've surprised me with a hair color, but I know that you're very, like you said earlier, you're very calculated or determined, or you like things a certain way, and you don't change things too quickly. And that's just not your personality. Like, you don't have any tattoos, you're not, you're just not on a whim, throwing ink on your body and that kind of stuff. But in the beginning of our relationship, I was excited by different things about you. I was excited to get to know you. It was very interesting and wonderful for me to be dating somebody that spoke different languages and had different experiences than me in life, and that was exciting. And I grew to love you. I never really looked at it that I like loved things about you. I love you, and I like things you do, or I think things you do are good, and I'm excited by certain things you do, and that type of thing. So I'm just trying to clarify some of the meaning of the words, when you throw that out. And this is kind of how our conversation went the other night too, when we're talking about our past and the things we went through, and just reminiscing about stuff, just to
No,
give people a
that's a
little
good
taste.
point. Now, this is going to be kind of sprung on you, but
Awesome.
I'm curious. Yeah, it's my impromptu nature, So I'm curious, you don't have to name. So there's got to be something about me that kind of irks you. How do you, if something is like throws you off, like, oh, I, didn't really care for the, yeah, it makes you contort your face. How do you inside you handle dealing with me? If you're like, I didn't really like that she did that or said that.
So the only thing that really bothers me is if people treat people badly. That honestly, that's about the only thing that really bothers me. I mean, of course, there's taxes and, all that kind of stuff. And, the money supply, the government printing more money and devaluing our money supply, and the economy and that type of stuff. But
In the next episode with John,
business
John's podcast will
101.
be about.
yeah, but if somebody forcefully tries to get me to do something, I'm a huge liberty guy. I'm big on um, taking care of business in my time, and if somebody's rude to me, I will talk about it. I'll bring it up, and I'll bring it back to that person. I'll hold up a mirror to them and say, this is what you said, and this, I didn't appreciate that. Is there a reason you said that to me the way you did? And um, part of me actually, I don't like people to be rude to me. I don't like things forced at me or said to me in a manner in which it's not polite. But then the other part of me, there's a part of me that actually um, likes to kind of have a little debate, have that conversation with somebody about what they did, and see their realization, whether they truly meant it, whether they were just not thinking when they did it, whether they had malice intent, because I don't mind going toe to toe in many senses of the word, and or that phrase, and just getting to the bottom of things, and then seeing a change in people is a big thing for me.
I
So
see that as a real fire type characteristic. You
mhm.
can definitely tell a fire type person because they're not afraid of conflict. They will go toe to toe with a person. Someone who's more mature like you doesn't just go to toe to toe just because they want to, but you can get a young, fiery person who will go toe to toe because they like that challenge.
Yeah, and they think it might lead to a fight. A physical fight. I don't think any of my conversations will ever lead to physical altercations, or even anybody putting their hands on anybody at all. Um, but yeah, it does have a little bit of an appeal. There's a little bit of an excitement. I don't like to argue. I like to discuss topics, points, point for point, with people, and get their true opinions, the true demeanor of their makeup of who they are, and then to find out. I mean, one of my old adages is that guys have to fight, and it's kind of like if a bunch of guys are in a room, it's like a pack of dogs, and you got to figure out who's going to be alphas, and the alphas generally either encourage each other or irritate each other or stay away from each other, you know and there can be more than one alpha in a room, and it's kind of the way things are. Guys have to have a major disagreement before they really get to understand each other at a deeper level, and kind of feel a camaraderie.
So I think my takeaway from your question, it may have seemed like a strange approach, but starting out with gratitude and talking about reminiscing and then coming around to kind of bringing out those, gooey, gushy feelings, but then to going to the opposite of what if someone is just taking you off, how do you handle it? And you're saying that essentially you don't get ticked off unless a person is outright mean or rude or
Or cruel, yeah, if they're being
cruel.
cruel. Yeah,
And
I've been in work environments where I've literally told guys, there's a line in the concrete right here in front of me, and if one more word passes this line, me and you are going to be touching each other. And that's guy to guy, and that's me saying I've had enough. That's the other guy saying I can make a choice now if I want to continue to insult John or this person I'm insulting, or if I want to stop and be polite.
but that's very different. I mean, going to back to our relationship or a couple's relationship, you definitely have uh, those lines in the sand or concrete, kind of depending on the situation. And we've definitely run into that. But you have confronted me uh, firmly. The firmness depended on how big the rudeness was from me, and but also lovingly.
Right.
And
With
so
love.
what I gathered from what you're saying is, first of all, you don't take things highly personally. So it has to be actually personal to be taken personally. And that's when you confront the situation. You don't let it fester. And I think those are two good takeaways. It's a good contrast to, okay, great, here's a way that we can do an exercise, do it impromptu, like you're in the car sometimes, say, I was just thinking about how we met and I just love this about you. And that's how you can get into the mutual appreciation.
Right.
But then it's the other end of the scale of how do you prevent all of the things that can build up over the years because they aren't addressed. First of all, if you're taking things too personally that are not personal, and two, did I say A or B? One or two, A, B.
You could say 1 and B.
This,
Or
I
A
think
and
that's
2.
what I ended up doing. And then two is if you don't actually talk about it, don't actually confront it. And it's not always easy. I think in the beginning, we have honed our communication and still work on our communication so that we're clear. And we've even had to say, no, this is not a personal thing. I just need to share with you that this is what's coming up. And I think that for me in our relationship, that has been the biggest thing for me. I tend to be a person who holds it in, opposite than you. I will hold in stuff and in the past, it was stuff that I didn't even know I was holding in.
Right.
And so to actually open up more, first of all, to myself and recognize, okay, you can let that go. That's not a big deal. And then working on how to communicate it is very helpful.
Exactly.
And doing more of the fun reminiscing, that can really, it's just like a bath, like you're just dirty and tired and then you take a shower or a bath and you're just
Well,
like,
I think
oh, that
it's
feels
interesting. I think everybody that ever hears this should read your book, because you've asked me before, what is there that irritates you about me? And you're more of an air type, and I'm more of a fire type, and I'm like, what is it that you love about me?
good.
Right away I'm just like, well, you must love everything about me because you're with me.
Right.
And you're like, well, there must be something you don't like about me and you're not telling me, because your personality is to hold a few things back if you feel it's not the right time or you don't know how to say it. My personality is just to say it. So that shows us, if we want to speak in NLP terms, the map of the world, your reality is not the actual map of the world, and people project. And so your question is projecting your thought process on me, and my belief about why you're with me is me projecting my thought process on you, thinking that, well, of course you must love everything about me because you're with me.
Right. And I don't remember. So I'm recalling too, as you're saying that if I've at times come to you with a problem and it kind of blindsides you because you're like, oh, you're saying you don't love me 100%.
Right.
Yeah, that's,
Well, we agreed on the 100 rule, so
and what's that?
we both give, I suppose we got to tell everybody, don't we? We both give 100% all the time. And, sometimes you're only giving 50%, and that's all you can give, you or me. But as long as one of us is doing 100%, we always have more than 100% going on in our relationship.
Right.
And, a lot of people say, well, it's 50-50, or there's the old phrase, we're going Dutch, we're paying for half of the bill, and I'm not that way.
So maybe in closing, I'm curious. So for me, the other night, not only, it was probably partly because it was my birthday and I was in receiving mode, like, okay, it's my birthday. What's, going to happen that's special and all that. So I was probably extra pre set up for this, but it does, and it's probably similar for women. I don't know if it's the same for men, which is why I'm asking you. For me, I do feel like it was the oxytocin release. Like it was revisiting those fresh love feelings and having the feeling of appreciation and that bonding, the oxytocin bonding, connecting,
Yeah.
like you were looking at me in the face. There are no other distractions.
Oh, the fire was going. We had some music on the system, on the stereo, and it was a lot of fun.
And I don't mean to, it probably sounds like I'm throwing you under the bus. Like, even when you are distracted, you are quite good at paying attention when I'm talking.
Yes,
It's me that
I
gets
believe you.
distracted by your not looking like you're paying attention.
Right.
So what is it like to you then? Like, just in hindsight, or like what feelings does it elicit in you to have a session like that?
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, it was, I've shared 16 years of my life with you. I plan on sharing the rest of my life with you. And it's, it's a building block. It's a paver in our sidewalk of life, that we are sharing and talking and reminiscing and figuring new things out and remembering the way things were and how we've grown. And that's, we grow together. We talked about this in the podcast about helping a loved one be healthy, that we uh I lost it when I tried to remember the name of the podcast. I lost my point.
I don't know where you were going with that. So, so what kind of, you said it was awesome, but what could you say? Would you say that that's something that most guys would be into, like, or like, let's say that, because this podcast is really meant to be helpful.
as
So
long as their woman is not, if I say, oh, in 2006 when we did this, as long as the woman is not saying, yeah, but you did this,
mm,
as long as there's not reminiscing about anything in a negative way, because guys are really vulnerable at that point, that well, why did you remember that and you didn't remember this,
mm.
you know and we were both living in the moment when we were having that time together, and it was all about having fun. And yeah, there was tangents, we talked about different things and jump topics and stuff like that, but we came back to reminiscing about the good things that have happened in our lives. And I think it's honestly, I think it's up to the woman. I think lots of guys would want to do that, but it's up to the woman in the sense that she needs to stay away from anything that's going to make a guy feel guilty or make him feel that he was incompetent, because we're everybody's incompetent about the person they're with until they're not. You don't know what you don't know. There's the 4 stages, right? You don't know what you don't know. You know what you don't know. You know what you know, and you don't know what you know. And you're moving in and out these between all 4 of these at any given time about on any topic. And
But I think what you said was important. You personally have never been the type of person that will bring up points like that to me. You don't bring up what you just said. It
past
was a great
failures, right?
time except for when you did this.
Right, right.
And so if I think about it, yeah, as a woman, that would make it really tough too. So either way, man or woman, to get really vulnerable, I mean, what, that mutual appreciation session, you're like the dog that it's exposing its belly,
Yep.
or let's say the cat, because dogs are much more ready to expose their belly for a rub-in, right? Well, cats aren't. And so I kind of see it like that you have to, the more you can feel comfortable and vulnerable, the more the other person can open up. And that may seem obvious, except for this is such an emotional realm that you may not know that you're missing out on that.
Right. You can't truly understand the feeling of giving unless you can receive, and you can't truly understand the feeling of receiving unless you can give. And that's what we're basically talking about here. You and I were both in the giving and receiving environment, just you and me, and we did both very well. It wasn't just me filling your cup, it was you filling mine too. And, and then when your cup is full, you get another cup. or you empty it out and fill it again.
Well, even using the belly rubbing analogy, is we're conscious of, and I think we've gotten better, I've gotten better at this, conscious of, okay, this is rubbing and this is poking. This is rubbing, don't poke, because the other person's gonna curl up and not want to do it again. And that's where you close the door on vulnerability and close the door on that intimacy that you may want. It's such a delicate thing.
It is. And it's easy for people to pull back because generally, I mean, you and me had other relationships before we met each other. And those relationships ended because they were not the right relationship for us. And now we found the right relationship. And it's easy to think of the times that you were poked, prodded, kicked, cut, whatever it was. And it's hard to get beyond that because it feels the same as a past negativity when somebody does it in the present.
Right. And to scale the reaction, maybe someone is doing a tiny poke, but you react like it's a huge poke because that's what
Exactly.
you're used to. Yeah, there's so many things to be aware of. But I do think that those are keys to why still, people see us as newlyweds, or we carry that energy. And there have been times where that has dimmed a bit, but I think reapplying these things, like you have to have the situations that help you to realize what you are missing, what you need to reinstitute.
Right. And I think we did a really great job together the other night. So with our talking and reminiscing and that kind of stuff. And I'll tell the guys and gals out there that are listening, it leads to wonderfulness.
Mm-hmm.
It leads to an awesome close to the evening.
Yeah, it is wonderfulness. And it spills into the next day too.
Exactly.
Because then you can reminisce about reminiscing.
Well, we're doing this podcast, 4 or 5 days after that evening.
Yeah.
And we're oxytocined out again.
Yeah, definitely. And it made me remember, I'll just say in closing, we're around the time of Thanksgiving, and to elicit real deep and genuine feelings of gratitude, it almost has to be impromptu. And or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But that situation to me was the richest sense of gratitude that I've experienced.
Nice.
We've done it before, but so it's not just that one, but doing that, to me is the richest form of gratitude.
Well, I'm glad I could be there for it and for you.
Thank you. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap.
Perfect.
Thanks for joining me on this.
You got it.
Love you.
I love you too.
Thanks for joining the Weight Free Wellness podcast today. We really hope you enjoyed it. And to be sure you don't miss an episode, subscribe to the Weight Free Wellness podcast by going to weightfreewellness.com, and you'll see the icons there for iTunes and for Android. And if you're wondering what body typing is all about, you'll also find an icon there for the body typing quiz, and you'll find information on the book as well. Until next time.